Hello there, I'm Hank, and welcome to my pod. Who the heck are you?
My name is Special Agent Hale, operative of WASP. I heard about your podcast on the internet, and I need your help. See, I have a series of covert case files, full of information that has been stolen by the Venerable Equalist and Intelligence League, or VAIL for short. These files are chock full of information that has been removed from the general public, and this information needs to be out in the world. And that's where you come in. I need you to make a series of podcast episodes dedicated to these characters. Will you help me?
Well, seeing as you broke into my studio, I'm happy to help. Who are we talking about first?
A character from the Harry Potter universe. The buffoon turned botanist Neville Longbottom. Think you can handle it, bub?
Don't worry, I'm on it. Hello there, I'm Hank, and welcome to my podcast, Hank Sayz, where we talk all things Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and Harry Potter. Today we're talking about the botanist and buffoon, Neville Longbottom. But before we get into it, I didn't feel right talking about him without someone who loved him just as much as I do. So put your ear flaps together for my returning co-host, Alan. How are you feeling today, Alan?
Alan is ready to do the podcast, Hank, sir.
Well, now that we've introduced ourselves, let's jump right into the first section of the podcast, the Fast Facts. What is that, Alan?
The Fast Facts is the first section of the podcast where we break down the who's, the what's, the whens, the where's, the whys, and the how's of our subject, in case one of your friends doesn't know who Neville Longbottom is, so that you can be the one to educate them.
So, the fast facts for Neville Longbottom are that he was created by J.K. Rowling, and he first appeared in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 1997, the original publishing of the book. As for his fictional history, he was born to Frank and Alice Longbottom, who are his parents, on July 30th, 1980. And his wand is 13 inches, has cherry wood, and has a unicorn hair core, and it was formerly his father's. His boggart, or what he fears most, is Severus Snape. That's mine too. His Patronus is non-corporeal, so not an animal. He eventually is married to Hannah Abbott and becomes the professor of herbology at Albus Dumbledore's school, Hogwarts.
Wow, that's a lot of info. Alright, now it's time to move into the next section of the podcast, the first sight.
That's right, that's where we peel back the curtain of time and reveal where we first met our subject. So, Alan, where did you first sight Neville Longbottom?
I first read about him in the first book of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's or Philosopher's Stone. And I really didn't think he was, I wouldn't say not a good character, but he was just kind of like almost a useless side character. Like he was just thrown in there for reasons.
Yeah.
You know?
Just the Toad Boy.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a moment. I actually met him before I read the book.
Really?
Yes, I was told about him by a friend of mine, Sarah. Shout out to Sarah on the podcast. And one of the things that made me want to read Harry Potter was him. He sounded really funny and he sounded like an interesting character to me, and I liked him even in the first book. Although I can see, why you may not think about that.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to the next section of our podcast, the diving board. What is the diving board, Alan?
The diving board is the main section of the podcast where we dive deep into the pool of learning that is Neville Longbottom.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice to find him, born as the 7th month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies. Thus goes the prophecy by Professor Tronley. I can't remember her name, but she makes that prophecy about Neville Longbottom and Harry Potter, because it applies to both of them. Voldemort feared that it was going to be Harry who was the one with the power instead of Neville, so instead of going and killing Neville himself, he sent Bellatrix Lestrange to kill his parents, which he did. But she did not kill little baby Neville for reasons that are unknown. So, in his early life, Neville moved in with his grandma, Augusta Longbottom, and showed signs of magic when his uncle dropped him out of a second-story window.
What?
Yeah, so his uncle was always trying to figure out, if he was magic or not, or if he was a squib. So he would do all of these tests to see if Neville had magic, and one of them was
yeah.
hanging him out of a second-story window. And then his grandma offered his uncle some pie to make him stop, and he was so excited that he dropped Neville out of said second-story window. But luckily, Neville bounced like a rubber ball for reasons that are also unknown.
Neville was invited to Hogwarts, and on the way there on the Hogwarts Express, he lost his toad on the train.
Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor the toad that his grandma had given him. Then he was sorted into Gryffindor by the sorting hat.
Fun fact, though, he actually, you know how Harry was like, not Slytherin, not Slytherin?
Yeah.
Actually, in Neville's mind, he was wanting to be in Hufflepuff. So he was like, please put me in Hufflepuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But the sorting hat was like, nope.
Denied.
Huh, interesting.
Let's put a pause right here and move on to a new segment called The First Year's Greatest Flops. In this section, we're going to be looking at the 3 greatest flops of Neville in his first year at Hogwarts. Number 1. He melts Seamus Finnegan's cauldron in their first potion class by brewing the wrong potions together.
Number 2. He breaks his wrist on a broom as he's trying to fly it and levitate in the air on it.
And third, he gets full body binded by Hermione and falls backwards and, quite literally, flops. Thank you for listening to this edition of the First Year's Greatest Flops. Now, back to the regularly scheduled podcast. So that's a pretty basic summary of Neville's first year at Hogwarts. Let's talk about his second.
Alright, so year 2 is the shortest year for Neville. He buys a purple crystal, which does something. He gets a newt tail for some reason, and a green union for basilisk protection, which apparently he needs protecting from basilisks for some reason.
He doesn't want to get eaten by a basilisk.
Sure.
Silly Neville.
Yeah. Snape is also a jerk in dueling, when Neville is dueling, and basically just shoots him down in the participation, and yeah, it's pretty bad.
Next, in his third year at Hogwarts, he witnesses the Dementor attack on the train and partakes in all of the chocolate eating, because Remus Lupin gives everybody chocolate that
Which
witnessed
is the cure for everything.
We already knew that, like magic chocolate, whatever,
right.
but regular chocolate is amazing also.
Yes.
And then he breaks Professor Trelawney's teacups while reading the leaves in the Foreseeing the Future class, which is a very bad omen.
Yep.
And he turns his shrinking solution orange instead of green. Bum, bum, bum. And then has to have it fed to his toad. Because Snape is an absolute jerk.
Does his toad explode? I don't remember.
No, it doesn't do anything.
No.
Snape just is like, oh, yes.
Feed it to your toad.
And Neville goes all pale. And then Hermione is caught by Snape trying to help him, and 500 million points from Gryffindor.
Yeah. Alright, then he's used as an example in Lupin's class about Boggarts, where his Boggart is Snape.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, mine is Dobby.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. He also allows Sirius to break into Gryffindor Tower because he writes down all the passwords on a piece of paper because he can't remember them.
Right.
And then he gets banned from Hogsmeade. Yeah.
For doing that, right?
Yeah, right.
Interesting. Poor Neville. At the beginning of his 4th year at Hogwarts, he is absolutely horrified by Professor Moody's unforgivable curses lesson because he knows that his parents were killed. Well, actually, his parents weren't killed, were driven insane by one of them. And he's encouraged by Professor Sprout, she'll be important later, and Professor Moody, who gives him a book about herbology to give to Harry, the whole gillyweed clue. That's a big plot point in the movie.
And then he has some epic gymnastic skills under the Imperious Curse, which Moody placed on him for a demonstration for the class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Disco Neville there.
Yeah, man.
And then he takes Ginny to the Yule Ball after asking Hermione first. Takes Ginny. And then goes to the memorial feast of Cedric Diggory when he dies.
Poor Neville.
Poor Cedric.
Poor both of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of them dies, but
Well, I mean,
both
yeah.
of them wish they were dead.
No! Cedric likes being alive.
All right. Why don't you go ask him?
Fair point.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay, at the start of his 5th, or arguably most important year, he knew the password of Gryffindor Tower and helped Harry out, so he didn't have to sleep outside.
Right.
He's the first to sign up for Dumbledore's Army, or the DA, and improves dramatically. It's actually specifically stated that he's the best in the class, second only to Harry and Hermione.
Nice.
So he's better than Ron.
Right.
And he receives a blowing gum wrapper from his mom. It's a very sweet scene in the movies where she gives him a bubble gum wrapper. And it's not much, but she is certifiably insane, so it's just kind of nice,
Yeah. All right, and then Neville trains harder when his parents' killers escape, and he becomes second only to Hermione. We already said
like
that.
we said.
But yeah, he becomes basically the best. He joins Ron, Ginny, Harry, Luna, and Hermione, who are going to the Hall of Prophecies.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the Hall of Prophecies. He's disarmed by Rabiston Landstridge, who is Beatrix Landstridge's accomplice. Wow, that was a tongue twister there. He gets his wand and nose broken trying to defend Harry.
Oof.
Yeah, he's then tortured by Bellatrix Landstridge, trying to make him who is trying to make him crack like his parents.
Oh, go insane.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't crack like his parents, which is good. And
is that a butt joke? His last name has bottom in it.
We're not gonna go there.
Okay.
He doesn't crack. He saves Harry from Weldon Mankar. He drops the prophecy, like he basically says, I'm not part of the prophecy, you are.
And he also, physically drops the prophecy and it shatters on the hard stone floor.
Exactly. He also learns the truth that he could have become the chosen one. And, Harry and him escape the ministry and gets a new wand, which is made out of cherry wood.
The same exact material that his other wand was, so he kind of gets a return there.
Yeah.
In the 6th year, he is supported by Harry emotionally, who says, and this is paraphrasing, "You are cool. None of them, or his other friends, were at the ministry. They didn't fight with me." And he was invited to join Horace Slughorn's Slug Club.
Sounds
great.
Yeah, great.
And was a server at Slughorn's Christmas party because he didn't, make the cut, theoretically.
Right.
And he gets his report card for the 5th year, which I have with me. He gets 1 outstanding, 2 exceeds expectations, and 1 acceptable on his card, which is
bad.
Pretty good.
Oh.
And he was one of the only Dumbledore's army in the Battle of Astronomy Tower, and he attended Dumbledore's funeral at the very end.
Right.
Man.
All right, on to the 7th year. Neville has some horrible teachers. They beat up Neville physically, which is not cool. Then Neville revives the DA because it kind of gets shut down with him, Luna, and Ginny trying to steal the Gryffindor sword.
Can I slip in here really quick?
Yeah, sure.
The horrible teachers beat Neville almost to death, beat him to unconsciousness after he tries to rescue some first years who have been mercilessly beaten and then hung upside down from their feet by chains
yeah, I
from
remember
the ceiling.
that was Also, another side note, his grandma evades capture and goes on the run.
Oh man, I can just imagine her sneaking around with her black spy suit on.
Ninja grandma.
Yes.
Then Neville hides and now lives in the room of requirement with the rest of the DA.
Oh right, because everyone thinks that he's dead or missing.
Right, exactly.
And then the trio shows up, and they go through the painting at the what is it, the Hogshead? Yeah. And he's getting food from Aberfroth, Dumbledore, Dumbledore's brother, and signals the DA that it's time to rise up. Tell your brother that she's okay. Hamilton reference.
Yeah, that was good.
And then goes on to fight the Death Eaters at the battle for Hogwarts and uses the Venomous Tentaclua to fight the Death Eaters, and it eats the Death Eaters.
That was awesome.
And he transports injured and dead during the ceasefire, so he helps take them back to the castle.
Right. Harry then tells Neville that him killing Nagini is a number one priority.
Nagini being Voldy's snake.
Yeah, Voldy's snake. Voldy then kills Harry and tries to get Neville to join him. And he's tortured by burning sorting hat shoved on his head. They somehow enchanted the sorting hat.
Yeah,
It's like
they're torturing the Sorting Hat and him at the
Right,
same time.
exactly. He got it off and then pulled the sword of Gryffindor out of the hat and then kills Nagini with it,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
That's like one of his coolest things.
Yeah.
He also shouts when Voldemort is like, "Oh, join me." He's like, "I'll join you when hell freezes over." And then everybody cheers and
Yeah.
and then he pulls it off and grabs the sword and whatnot.
Mhm.
And he and Ron Weasley team up and kill Fenrir Greyback, who is, if you remember, is the werewolf that bit Lupin when
Right.
he was young. And he dueled and killed a Death Eater named Scabior. And he witnessed the end of the second Wizarding Year.
Wow. Yeah. He then briefly became an Auror and was offered...
I always heard it Auror.
Auror?
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 Whatever.
Auror, maybe?
A dark magic fighter.
Yep. And he was offered and applied for a herbology position and got it at Hogwarts, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
He married Hannah Abbott. She became the Leaky Cauldron Landlady.
Oh boy.
That's another tongue twister right there. Leaky Cauldron Landlady. And then in 2017, Ginny remarks, "Give Neville our love."
Oh, right at the end of the last book,
Right.
because Neville's a teacher by then.
And then that's pretty much the last we hear of Neville.
Well, looks like that's the end of our case file on Neville Longbottom. Hopefully that lives up to Agent Hale's satisfaction.
Who's Agent Hale?
Never mind.
All right, let's go into the next section of the podcast, the shameless plugs.
Actually, guys, before we move on to the shameless plug section of the podcast, I wanted to say a quick word about Chadwick Boseman, the actor who played Black Panther, because he died just the other day from colon cancer. And even though he'll never hear this, I just want to say, Chad, thank you so much for everything that you've done. You were my first inspiration as a Marvel superhero, and even in the midst of all of the racial hate and anger and misplaced fear that was going on in the world, you stood strong in the face of that, and I'll forever admire you for that.
That was really nice. All right, let's move on to the next section of the podcast, the shameless plugs.
This is the section of the podcast where we shamelessly self-promote our podcast and everything to do with it. Getting started, please make a suggestion of a topic we discuss and email it to hanksayzpodcast@gmail.com. That's Hank Sayz with a Z. Please message us over there. We'd love to hear your input and thoughts.
That's right. And to find a resource hub, just visit anchor.fm/hanksayz. That's anchor.fm/hank-sayz with a Z.
And if you don't want to use Anchor, they can find us by searching Hank Sayz on what websites, Alan?
Let's see. There's Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Republic, and Spotify.
Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd prefer to listen to our episodes over there, and leave your suggestions in the comments.
All right, now that we're done with the shameless plugs, it's time to head to the final section of our podcast, the guessing games.
Boing!
Yes, the guessing games is the last section of the podcast where we make sure you stick to all of our shameless plugs and self-promotion to hear us play some guessing games.
What's our game today, Hank?
Well, today's game is the second edition of Hidden History.
Ooh.
Alan, today is your challenge to try and recollect some key moments in Neville's history. But there's a catch.
Ooh.
We have some high stakes for this one. If you get even one answer wrong,
One answer wrong?
Yep.
What's gonna happen?
all of the listeners have to follow or subscribe on their platform of choice to Hank Sayz.
Man, that's some high stakes there.
I know, but are you okay with it? Can you handle the pressure?
I think I can handle it.
All right. So, the first question is, what are the name of Neville's parents from the top of the episode? I told you already. Can you remember?
If I'm remembering correctly, they are Frank and Alice Longbottom.
That is correct.
Yes. One
Okay.
day.
One down.
down.
A couple more to go.
Okay.
Your second question is, what is the name of his pet toad that he loses on the Hogwarts
It
Express?
was it Terry? No, it was Trevor.
That's
Trevor.
right.
Trevor the Toad.
Trevor the Toad. All right, your third question is, who do you think J.K. Rowling strongly considered coupling Neville with instead of Hannah Abbott?
Was it Ginny?
No, I'll give you 3 guesses for this one.
Okay, okay. Hermione.
Nope.
Lavender.
No, it was not any of these. That was Luna Lovegood. Looks like everyone.
Yeah.
Looks like everyone's gonna need to subscribe or follow Hank Sayz on their favorite platform of
How
choice.
unfortunate.
All right, and your fourth and final question is: true or false? Neville appears in every Harry Potter movie.
Every Harry Potter movie.
Yes.
Not book.
Not book. Movie.
I haven't seen all the movies, but I feel like he does.
That's correct.
Really?
It is
Awesome.
True. So your final score is 3. You got 3 out of 4 today, Alan.
Didn't get all of them right. How unfortunate
Nope.
that they have to subscribe now.
That's
you
very
know?
sad for them. But make sure that you subscribe on your platform of choice to Hank Sayz.
Definitely.
We listed all of those platforms back in the the
Shameless plugs.
Yep, that section. Well, it looks like it's about time to end the podcast for today. Thank you so much for tuning into Hank Sayz, where we talk all things Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and Harry Potter. I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Alan, why don't you just close out the podcast in the most Harry Potter-esque way imaginable?
Dobby is seeing you later, Harry Potter.